Alright, YouTube, I said I'd make a fairly short video on this subject, which is that CNN appears to have possibly been caught coaching the undecided, unbiased voter blocks that it used to assemble its snap poll. Now, this is just from the Ohio voters. I think the snap poll was voters in many different locations. But if they're coaching one group of people, and getting caught out doing it, if we assume that's what happened, you can presume they probably did that with multiple groups of people, hoping to sway the result in Clinton's favor. This makes sense, by the way. CNN and Trump have sparred dozens of times from the primaries through the general election. There's bad blood there. Why then would they want to release a poll that showed Trump up? They wouldn't, because they don't want him to win. They don't want a U.S. president that's going to, for instance, decide to ignore CNN, not grant them that juicy interview or two maybe, not take their questions at a press conference, ignore them, pass them up for some other media group, and so forth. I would point this out. If the media is worried about a president that or a political movement that potentially would go after the freedom of the press. By the way, free press literally means printing press. It's not just people with journalism degrees. It's also authors, editors, anyone who circulates a pamphlet, your posts online, video format, what I'm doing right now, falls under freedom of the press. Explicitly and completely, it's freedom of the press. It's the transfer of information. It's not just the big corporate media. From the smallest blog to the largest office at CNN, it's exactly the same laws that cover all of these groups. Remember what I think it was Feinstein, but it might have been Pelosi said. Actually, I think it was Pelosi, talking about how bloggers and people like that shouldn't be covered under the First Amendment. There's your attack on journalism. Because journalism doesn't just take place with a bunch of elitists who get 6- and 7-figure salaries. People like Anderson Cooper, people like Bill O'Reilly, people like Rachel Maddow or Glenn Beck. Most of these people aren't even doing journalism. They're just talking heads. All they do is give their opinions. They don't even really analyze things in any great degree of depth. Now you have at least some evidence that CNN may have fudged its own poll. Now, which is more likely? That CNN, that's in a war of words with Trump, whose moderator at the debate last night was attacked several times by Trump, fudged its poll to get back at him, or that they're the unbiased one, and the fact that there's about a 10 to 20 point gap between their snap poll and even many other snap polls which were conducted in a scientific manner. I'm not talking about just Luntz, who's a Republican pollster. I would hope he did a good job. His shows Trump out ahead. YouGov, they did polling. They're not exactly a biased firm. In fact, some of their polls have shown Clinton up by amounts that almost indicate outlier methodology. Now, theirs showed that among undecided voters, Trump had an edge. That among, I can't remember the other group that they polled, it showed dead heat. One of them showed a dead heat, the other showed an edge for Trump, and I think they had several others on there, but they escaped me at the moment. I think they did female voters. I can't remember, but they had various groups that they polled on the subject of the debate. And they certainly didn't show a 59-38 gap in favor of Clinton. I deeply question whether we can trust the CNN snap poll. I'm going to go with the YouGov poll, which shows that undecided voters broke for Trump fairly handily. Groups that perhaps are not undecided yet broke for Clinton. Well, no shit, she is ahead overall in polling with people that have made up their minds. She has a larger conglomerate voter base. The focus of the rest of the general election is on the undecided voters and potentially on soft supporters. I see a lot of Clinton's soft support eventually abandoning her as WikiLeaks, O'Keefe, and others weigh in with repeated leaks that chip away at that soft support. And even if that doesn't happen, by the way, that it may not save her even if she retains that soft support. She's still not breaking 50. By any stretch of the imagination. She considers it a good day to have 45% in national polling. I think the new NBC poll is either an outlier or hasn't adjusted for the debate, which I see as having gone heavily in favor of Trump. And let me ask this. If CNN's other poll, actually I don't think it was CNN, I can't remember which polling firm did it. I think it was NBC, shows that a vast majority of people thought Trump was doing better than expected, why would there be such a massive gap in favor of Clinton, who performed in a mediocre manner? She was basically like what she did at the first debate. It doesn't make sense. All evidence being weighed, I tend to lean towards thinking CNN was trying to go after Trump with this specific snap poll, and that it is not accurate. I can't believe in any realm of the imagination that Trump would have performed less bigly, let's put it, at the second debate, where he did remarkably well, than at the first debate, where he delivered an honestly boring performance, which was lackluster and quickly forgotten the second Mike Pence thrashed his opponent. I can't believe that that could possibly happen. I think they did fudge it. I think this is evidence that they were coaching the people that were there. At the very least, in a coercive manner, if not just telling them, oh yeah, vote for Clinton in this poll or something like that. I don't think they do that, but using suggestion in order to mindfuck people a little bit, yeah, I think that would make sense. Oh, here are the top 3. Before you tell me who you support, I'm going to give you the top highlights of the debate, and it's like all Clinton's best lines and Trump, acting like an ass or something like that, or something along those lines. Yeah, I think it's fairly clear that there's a good possibility that's what was happening, and caught there for a couple of seconds, it looked like the person leading that specific group was coaching at least one of the people there. There are almost 300,000 people that have already seen the video clip, the main video clip posted, and people mirrored it everywhere. Drudge has reported on it. It's not a small thing. CNN may be forced to actually respond to these accusations, which they may ignore it. Honestly, their viewership is insular. People who are watching CNN largely are boomer TV audience. They're not necessarily hooked into the internet to any great extent. They still trust TV more than the internet in some cases. 2/3 of Americans have the right idea. They don't trust the mainstream media. 1/3 of Americans, which is mostly the boomers, unfortunately continues in the delusion. And it is a delusion that the mainstream media has remained unbiased and still, reports the news. But it doesn't. These firms are all opinion all the time. They don't even really talk about events half of the time. I find it very, very funny that there's anybody left in the United States that still trusts them. That's about all. Peace out.